it was a huge responsibility, and I don't think many people realize how tough a challenge it is. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to change the area. I certainly wanted to change uh, my city.
Good morning, and I thank each and every one of you for joining me today as we come together and stand against racism, injustice, and inequality.
How did it feel like being appointed the first Muslim and BAME Lord Mayor of Newcastle Tyne in 800 years? Hi friends, welcome to this first episode of Sparks Unboxed, the podcast sharing inspiring stories from philanthropists, entrepreneurs and industry professionals, giving an insight into their life, their journey, and what is that spark that created change for them and created success. So today, on the first episode, I had an amazing conversation with quite an inspiring figure and a bit of a coup that I've got them. They were anti-racism campaigner for over 25 years, most of their life. They started off their career in community engagement. They were a youth worker, and that sowed the seeds for their later work, becoming a local councillar in 2010. They're still a councillor as well. They were appointed a Newcastle City Council cabinet member, and last but not least, appointed the city's first Muslim and BAME Lord Mayor in 800 years. So it's been my absolute pleasure speaking with Habib. Let's dive into the episode. Hi Habib, welcome to the show. My first guest in this new podcast series. It's really great to have you on the show. Really honored to have you on. Thank you so much for joining. So Habib, I've known you for a while now and collaborated on many projects and charity work. And wider than that, obviously, I've seen you so active in the community as part of the council, and also as a local councillor, and then becoming a Lord Mayor of Newcastle upon Tyne. So let's kick off and start at the beginning. What was your experience growing up in the West End? How did you get started in community work, and what's that been like during that period when you were working?
Thank you, Manju. Delighted to be here. Looking forward to the conversation for the next however long it takes. How did I get involved in community work? How it all started? Um I suppose different people get into different activities or campaign for reasons that they have. My reason to get involved in the community work was quite simple. I wanted to change the world. I wanted to change the area. I certainly wanted to change my city. And that change is one of making the area and the city and the region and the world a better place for people of all walks of life, and certainly for people like me, black, Asian, minority, ethnic, in terms of having the right opportunities and access. But fundamentally, my main reason was uh, for one of challenging discrimination. So that was the real motivation behind getting involved in community work. And my profession was pretty much focused on youth. So um, I wanted to make changes to the lives of younger people, young people in the early years. I'm sure stats and report and all various reports confirms the obvious, which is you tend to learn more when you're younger, and you keep on to what you've learned to shape your life coming forward. So it was one to educate the younger generation to protect and safeguard and shape our society for the better. And if we can have people receiving the best of education, of course, youth work wasn't a formal form of education. It's an informal education, very much learned from experience, engagement. Then you've built bridges. So that was really the motivation, because of the lack of opportunity and the discrimination that I suffered having arrived here. So you know the plan, the mission was there to change my community, change my city, and to change Britain for the better.
Yeah, fantastic. And you were doing youth work for quite a number of years, I believe. And I remember seeing you in the Million Youth Centre and Murray House as well. But I think maybe that was different. What kind of things were you doing, and how do you feel through your actions and the work that you did, what impact that was having on the young people that you're supporting?
Yeah, so yes, you've still very fondly remember Mullane, and even I heard Murray House there. So I started becoming a volunteer with the city's only Black and Asian youth project called the United Black Youth Association. Going back in the late mid 80s, it was established, and UBYA was based at Murray House, and Murray House, to the many generations of youth, my generation, that was our hub. That was our space, our avenue to go and just relax, just chill, and have a great old time, but at the same time, pick up vital life lessons. And for us, people of color, it was an opportunity to be our natural selves, and from where, through the right support from our peers, our youth workers, you received the support, and the real tools to, one, protect yourself, and B, to become a social justice campaigner yourself, to challenge and combat racism and inequalities. So I started volunteering possibly when I was 17. So it started right early for me, and having joined UBY as a volunteer, it was quite clear at a young age for me where my route or my profession is likely to be, which certainly was within community engagement, youth and community work. So, and I never looked back since then. From 1991, eventually taken up a part-time post with UBYA, and ultimately becoming the city's, Newcastle City's, possibly I was the first Black full-time youth worker in the early 2000s, which is horrible as it sounds, that in 2000 there was only one Black full-time youth worker. So I worked for Newcastle City Council, and my last employment with the youth service was North Tyneside Youth Council, where I was based in Wallsend, of all places. A particular area that still brings back so much memory. So when I left North Tyneside Youth Council, the youth service was coming to a demise. Um, nationally and locally, the support wasn't there. So once upon a time here in Britain, youth work was seen as a statutory service that government would fund or provide the funding for local authorities to uh, provide number of opportunities for boys, girls, and people of all walks of life. And that no longer was part of the plan of then the government. And youth service was somewhat dismantled. And it's such a shame that youth service does not no longer exist. It's left to a handful of charities in areas who offer very basic provision for young people to attend and just be their natural selves. Just let go your steam, and it is a avenue where the informal support often shapes people. It certainly did to me. I know the huge impact the youth service had in me, UBY had in me, because uh, the real inspiration, the education, and I've referenced this in so many so many places. I probably learned more going to my youth club than attending school. So informal education has a huge impact in so many people's lives, and it's such a shame that the youth service isn't there on its on a more open, full time basis. Such a shame.
Yeah, yeah. It's I totally agree. It's having these opportunities to develop, whether that's the volunteering or other activities. And I remember they used to do day trips as well, camping and things that I would never be allowed to go on because mum was too worried.
Yeah, well,
these experiences make
yeah,
such a difference, right?
absolutely. It's huge. So you the camping trip that you've mentioned. So on a regular basis, at least once a year, um, it wasn't the youth workers who were just getting the funds from somewhere and just coming up with plans and organizing something. It was very much uh, participant led. It was the members who themselves would plan, work out the funding, and you as a very successful fundraiser, you volunteer with a number of projects, a number of charities. You know personally how much you've gained in confidence and the support. So imagine a group of 14, 15, 16, 17 year olds who are going through the formal education where they're coming in and they're asked to budget, plan, action, negotiate, communicate, make the arrangements. The CV looks absolutely amazing when somebody goes through those, picking up vital experiences. And a couple of the success then is so I was involved with three international exchange. So as a uh, beneficiary, as a user of as a member of the United Black Youth Association, we organized educational exchange or educational visit in Amsterdam. The first time I came across Anne Frank. Yeah, how many school now teach you history of the Holocaust, and how many children of this uh, uh, generation are actually aware of Anne Frank? So We did a little bit of our homework. We understood. We learned a wee bit, but it's never enough until you physically visit. I remember queuing up to get into Anne Frank's house, which is now regarded as a museum. We queued for 4 hours to get in, and once you
And that was
got
back then. You
yeah,
have to wait days now to book it in.
yeah,
You can't just show up.
yeah. No, we were one of the lucky ones, I suppose. Once you get into the house, it just blows you apart. You look at the state and the condition. These are very vital and important life lessons. I was then involved with organizing bilateral exchange. What that means is two countries. So I organized one with a group of Italian young people and Spanish. And it was so the very first one was in 99, where a group of diverse group of kids from the West End, Benwell and Scotchwood, where we had issues of integration. Black and white kids won't necessarily integrate because of the serious issues. And the project that I was particularly working on was to foster good relationship and build integration, bringing black and white kids together. And from that point onwards, looking at, well, how do we cement their relationship and build this up further and further to demonstrate, well, actually, black and white kids can work together and they're no different to one another than, I suppose, the obvious color of their skin. But when you look beyond that, there's just a bunch of kids wanting to, enjoy life, learn, and move to build a better future for the community and themselves. So those are fantastic, and each of the bilateral exchanges cost in the region of about £20,000. So the challenge was for the kids themselves to raise money. So your curry night, your fashion show, your rising submitting application forms here and there, any kind of car washing, you name it, anything that you thought of that'll get you a couple of pennies. Well, go for it, do it. And the element of planning, the commitment, it's there to acquire those skills and to show your commitment. So, it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
So before they've even gone out, they've already built some skills and had some experience.
Exactly.
And it really sounds like such an amazing experience for them and life-changing moment, right?
Yeah.
This is stuff that's they're gonna remember for a long time. It's gonna push them in a different direction and trajectory. For me, one of the things that really turning points to me was volunteering out in Peru, but it was just a random chance that I found out about it through the volunteer center. So that's great. And you were doing all of this in your early 20s.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it organizing? Wow, like that's amazing. I didn't feel like I was even an adult until I was about 30.
Yeah.
Finished university at 25. I was a bit of a late bloomer after school. But you're doing this in your early 20s. So would you say this work that you're doing, it's kind of sowed the seeds of your work with Show Racism the Red Card, sorry, and you becoming a councillor. So I know you touched on that, but would you like to just share more on your early days of going into politics and being a local councillor and really kind of cementing your work as someone supporting the local community?
Yeah. No. From a younger age, I think I knew that I'd get involved in mainstream politics. Perhaps the reason for that is, of course, my initial profession and my early stage of community activism was all about fostering community relationship and building bridges to prevent your discrimination and racism that was very visible, and to uh, 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 change the community within. And that was a challenge in itself. But the biggest challenge that I knew while I worked for the youth and community sector was um, some of the institutional aspect needs to be revisited, and equalities can only be had if those making a decision have the right mindset, and to change policies, and to bring about policies that safeguards, protects equality, then you've got to be within the decision making table. So the only way I could make or influence, shape change is um, uh, I've got to be part of that policy making forum, policy making table, or within that scope. So for me, it was a matter of time before I entered politics. The timings had to be absolutely right. Um, so, and as it appears, the timing for me wasn't right until 2010. That's when I was first, I contested my first election. I was first elected, and I still remain to be the councillor for the area. And, there wasn't any other area for me to uh, consider than Elsick, the ward that I've always lived, and the area where I've worked. Worked on the terraces as an outreach worker, and I've seen some of the huge challenges, and it is the ward that perhaps faced some of the serious um, and high level of racism that the diverse community and certainly the Muslim South Asian community faced back in the 80s, 90s. But it's a lot better place because of the collective efforts of everybody involved. And sure, raising the red card, it was a no-brainer, really. I've been an anti-racist campaigner all my life, and when this project was taking shape back in '96, I was a active campaigner, and I joined the management committee in the early stages. Remained with them for about 4 odd years. Then, with every one of us in our profession, our family life. It's all about commitment, isn't it? So having working a full time and family, there's so much you could do. After about 4 years, I decided to take a step back from management, uh, but I remained an active supporter and an ambassador, and I continue to support Show Raising the Red Card the way that I can.
Yeah, I've seen some of your work. You've been working with them for such a long time, and have been meeting some amazing people as well through that, in addition to work. So I was curious. So you became a councillor in 2010. Um, you've decided I want to run for councillor. What happens next? So, how does one? This could be a good part for any budding councillors out there who are thinking about getting into politics. Like, how do you go about? How do you decide? Like, what happens next?
Yeah, okay, to enter into politics. So, first and foremost, um, you've got to be part of a political party. So, you affiliate with a political party, and you then go through the due process. So, if somebody has any aspiration to get involved in mainstream politics, there's several where you could be involved with the party. If one of your aspiration is to uh, uh, enter the political field with a view to becoming a elected member, whether a councillor, then further up progressing on to become a police crime commissioner, your mayor, your MP, and ultimately, why not? Everybody should have aspiration to even lead the country as the country's prime minister. What a starting point is, you've got to be apolitical, and B, the best route will be for you to join a party, a political party. So once you've joined a political party, then each party have their own recruitment, number of process. It's not all that difficult. Anybody can. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's born with all the skill sets. If you have the willingness, and if you've got all the patience in the world and the knack to help people, then enter in. I'd welcome anyone, and certainly there is a real need for change in local democracy. Local politicians, until I joined the council in 2010, um, the generation of our elected representatives were, and I'm trying to be very kind to all my former colleagues and current colleagues, are of a retired generation. So 95%, if not more, of your local councillors are older people. So there's your huge generational gap. So why aren't more younger people, middle age and younger people, not getting involved? Perhaps they don't feel equally represented or connected with local democracy. So, and of course, having youth work as a professional background, one of the first thing I did, having been elected, was to have those serious conversations with my party to say, you know what, we need to revisit this and look at how do we diversify our group. And diversifying includes, and diversity isn't just gender and racial equality, but also the generational gap as well. So 10, 12, 13 years of me being a councillor. I'm not going to take all credit, but I think somewhere down the line, many of my peers will say, well, you were a bit of a shaker and mover. Newcastle 3 years
totally
ago.
agree.
Yeah.
You must have certainly paved the way for a lot of people, and being you mentioned you're the first BAME youth worker. There's a lot of first for you. First BAME local councillor, right?
Yeah.
Cabinet.
No, I wasn't the first BAME councillor. I certainly was the first Black, South Asian, Muslim cabinet member. the front benches, and certainly the most recent office that I held. But on the generational gap, I was going to finish on the point. 5 years ago, Newcastle City Council elected a young woman who then was confirmed as the youngest councillor in Britain. So not just in Newcastle or the Northeast, but in Britain.
Darlington.
No. So Darlington followed afterwards. In Newcastle, we had Anya Durant, who became the youngest councillor in Britain. And after Anya, a young girl in Darlington, Bengali Muslim woman, Sharifa became overtook Anya and became the youngest. So we made some tremendous changes, and right at this moment, in the Northeast region, Newcastle Council or councillors representing Newcastle City are probably the most diverse in terms of generational balance to that compare of any other local authorities. It's a responsibility, I would say, of all the mainstream political parties to look at their current stock and shape that. And one of the challenges that or one of the reasons that I realize that really affected political parties being able to attract younger people is because of the financial reward that does not exist. So as a local, as an elected councillor, there are myths out there. People think, oh, councillors are getting paid huge sums of money. Well, actually, no. So every one of us elected members, our allowance, so in Newcastle, what we get is not classed as wage, it's classed as an allowance. Our allowance isn't sufficient enough to feed oneself, let alone the family. We do that because we are passion driven. All of us have a full-time job, which brings food and bread to the table. The allowance isn't sufficient enough to, let's say, somebody who's just in your early stage, having graduated, rightly so, you're looking for the full-time job that pays you well enough to pay the tuition fee and some of the debts that you would have accrued. And this is where joining the council isn't the right move, because the allowance Newcastle councillors receive is 9,000, and some of the other areas between 7,000 and 9,000, and that's nowhere enough.
If you want to be a councillor, it's about the reasons behind it is to make a difference.
Money is not one of
really
them.
Yeah, you want to making a lot of money. So,
but it opens up. I suppose what it really does is, and I speak for all my fellow local politicians, whichever party they are. We are here because we've got the passion and the drive. We want to make a change. We want to represent our ward, our residents. We want the best for our city, our borough, and we want to see huge improvement going on. And that's the passion, and that's the drive, and that's the reason why we get in. But there are number of examples where becoming a councillor could be the stepping stone in you getting to number 10. And the prime example is probably the most recent one would be Theresa May. So Theresa May was one of the former prime ministers before Boris Johnson. So Rishi Sunak, before Boris Johnson, Theresa May. Theresa May started her political career as a councillor. So first she became a councillor. Perhaps she had those visions right from the beginning, which is, I'm going to start from here. I want to get to number 10. Well, these are the kind of aspiration and drive and motivation one should have. And she did. There are a number of other examples where politicians who started their political life as a councillor are now sitting member of parliament, are ministers. The current deputy leader of the Labour Party started her political life as a local councillor. So she was a local councillor, moved up the rank. Now she's currently the deputy leader of the Labour Party. And I'm sure there will be other examples which, that I'm not aware of. But there's two examples, high-profile example where the opportunity is endless, and there shouldn't be any barrier to how far you can reach if you wish to. Anyone,
if you leave politics, even after being a councillor first term, and you leave, you would have picked up so much experience and skills and a huge network.
Absolutely,
to do others.
Absolutely.
One thing I gotta definitely talk about. So you're saying it's a stepping stone. This is led, your counselling work has led on to many stepping stones for you. And what did it feel like? And this is going to be quite a headline. What did it feel like being appointed the first Muslim and BAME Lord Mayor of Newcastle in 800 years? So when you got appointed, what was going through your mind? How did it feel? How did all that come about?
Yeah. No, it's one of the most amazing feelings. So before my inauguration, I was aware of my nomination. I knew the date when the council AGM is, at which point I should be elected the Lord Mayor of the city. And the reason I said I should be, so at the AGM, if only one councillor, so one elected member, so Newcastle has 78 elected members, and any sitting Lord Mayor or incoming Lord Mayor needs the endorsement of the other 77. If only one person objects at that council AGM, they could object because personal difference, whatever reason they have. They don't need a rational reason. They could just get up the chair and say, I object, and that's it. You are not the Lord Mayor. So it's quite serious on those bases. So I knew I was about to be the Lord Mayor, and I'd known this a year before when I was first appointed as the Deputy Lord Mayor. So the appointment of the Deputy is a confirmation that the Deputy will take over from the Lord Mayor. But you haven't taken over until at the AGM and everybody endorses you. And that's probably one of the highest of respect your peers can pay on, on you. That here's someone that we've unanimous support. So I knew what was
It's
coming.
something that's really well earned. It's
Uh,
not something
Absolutely,
you just like apply for. You hit the
and you get
right
it. No,
criteria, like a
no,
job description.
no.
It feels like something that you really earn.
Absolutely, and you've got to get that. And I had 12 months trying to figure out what does this actually means. And as it was getting closer and closer and closer to the AGM, D-Day is upon us, um, and some of the media attention and the focus and the reality which kicked in, which was, so I wasn't only the first black South Asian Muslim Lord Mayor, I was also the youngest ever Lord Mayor. So there's that
Oh yeah,
there's
I
that
forgot about
that
that.
aspect, and there's that
Yeah,
generational aspect as well. And the pressure was so much. I felt it. I felt it
yeah,
at the chamber, and immediately from the second day onwards, I've had younger people, people as young as 7, 8, and 9-year-old. They wanted to meet this Lord Mayor. So it was a uh, it was a huge responsibility, and I don't think many people realize how tough a challenge it is, because all of a sudden I'm there to be representing the entire city, and representing the entire city means the entire diverse city. And I needed to appeal to the younger generation, all the generations of people. As a male, I was mindful um, how well am I representing girls and women. So it was a really really tough challenge, and of course that's all positive, but then there's that negative aspect where I knew this was a huge test, uh, not only for me, but my uh, term in office. There will be some who will judge me, and if I put a foot wrong, then the entire black community will uh, will be deemed ineffective, unable, and everything that comes with it. And that's pressure. That's real pressure.
I hadn't really appreciated it and really thought about it in that sense. That must be a sometimes quite uncomfortable feeling. I don't want to put my words into your mouth, but like that, yeah, that's a lot of pressure there.
Oh, it was
Putting
huge.
a foot wrong, and there must have been like loads of voices in your head going, right, if I do this, what are they gonna think, or what's gonna happen here?
Yeah,
Was
no,
it like that? How would you?
I was. I felt the pressure, and of course, I came in during pandemic, so I had lost nearly 4 months of the office. So for 4 months, we were still on lockdown. So I had a little over, um, yeah, just under 8 months, of which there were periods of lockdown restrictions and what have you not. But I ended up doing more engagements than my predecessors or my successor who followed me. Um,
Like, getting out into the community and
that's
seeing
right.
people, that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
yeah. Because how I felt the pressure was I'm on the spotlight and I'm representing the entire diverse community, and I'm also representing a different generation, being the youngest person. So I needed to appeal to the younger uh, 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 younger members of our community, the younger Geordies, as well as the diverse Geordies. And of course, there's the other side, which um kept me on my toes, which is how do I challenge the bigots and those with, ill views, ill-held views. I was here, there, everywhere, literally on your toes all the time and just continuously going. Um, uh, and I needed to do that because I was there to prove a point. And that point is, uh, yeah, black people have been contributing in shaping our community and our society, and black people can fulfill. Does not matter how big an office it is, and we shouldn't be judged and we shouldn't be undermined. And I think I've proved that, not just here in Newcastle in the north. I've had fantastic messages of support, emails, and letters coming as far as um, south. In fact, I've had a letter personally hand delivered from Pakistan, of all places, you won't believe.
Right.
Um, uh,
That's amazing.
uh,
They
uh,
flew from Pakistan.
well,
So
well, there's
came here and somebody here handed over.
no. It's such a. It was one of few moments where I shed a few tears. So a young man sends the Lord Mayor's office an email. Dear Lord Mayor, I'd like to meet you. And, the office administers all of this, and eventually they forward me an email saying, oh, Lord Mayor, somebody wants to meet you. They're insisting on. So I exchanged some conversation and I realized here's an individual who's a international student here in Newcastle, studying Northumbria Uni, from Pakistan. I forget from which village in Pakistan. And he so wishes to meet me. I thought, of course, international students, why not? I'll give him an hour. So I arrange a meeting. He turns up with a box of chocolate and a letter, all still wrapped in. And he tells me the sad news, which is his father passed away um, after my appointment during COVID. Um, and before his father passed away, his father spoke to him, and he read, and this is so amazing. He read, in sitting in Pakistan in a rural village, he read an article that this Habib Rahman became the city's first black Muslim South Asian Lord Mayor. And of course, it also said he's Bengali. He was so of uh, um, proud of me breaking the glass ceiling and paving the way, that he instructed his son to make sure to visit me and convey his best wishes. And while this young man was trying to organize this, he got lost track of things, and sadly his father passed away, and he's telling me all of this. And I was so touched that in of all places, not a fellow Bengali, but a Pakistani uncle in a rural village, having read the article, it was a amazing moment, and I'm still in touch with this young man. See him every now and then. So those are the kind of some of the love and reaction that I got, and forever cherish those moments.
Fantastic. I love that. That's such an amazing story.
Mm.
And I think it should not be underestimated, the significance of this achievement and the raising of aspirations. Your story has reverberated around the world, and me including. I'm certainly so inspired by your story and your progress, and I think that having that role models in the community, your role model, it doesn't have to be that David Beckham footballer, etc. It's people that I think are more powerful are those in the local community, people that you can relate to, and you're setting that example. And this is exactly the point of this podcast, was to share the stories of real people, everyday people doing extraordinary things. So to finish off the podcast, I know you need to go. We're a bit over time. You've got the kids to grab, but just for the listeners, and it's going to be a theme through these series, is asking my guests, what is that pivotal moment in your life, or few moments, that has really changed your life? We've talked about quite a bit today, and how has it shaped you, and what advice would you leave to the listeners, especially young people growing up and not sure what to do? What things in your past that have really shaped you and been that spark for change?
Yeah, quite a few dates, quite a few significant moments, but I think the biggest one will be in '92. 92, summer of '92, when having witnessed another murder in the community, a young middle-aged Muslim man on his way to mosque was assaulted, beaten to death. And days after that, mom breaking the news to me for the first time, what had happened to my dad. And that was one of the turning point of my life. And maybe it was days and weeks after that I had concluded and planted seeds in my head in terms of my path going forward to challenge institutional and racism, and helping to make our community, our society, and our country a better place. That was one of them, definitely. And the other moment was me going to Wolves End to work within meters of where my dad was brutally killed, and of course, taking up the office of the Lord Mayor is certainly up there, as are a few more other significant dates. In terms of message to the current generations or the younger generation, I remember speaking with groups of Black and minority community, younger people, and certainly some of the refugees and asylum-seeking young people who have most recently arrived over the last decade or so, or within the last 5 years. I remember saying them this. for them to look at me and to accept that if I can become the first citizen of this city, here's someone who miserably failed his GCSE, doesn't have the best of academic background because of the struggles, but still went on to achieve so much, and there's still so much more to achieve. Uh, Now, current generations of people, certainly the last 2, 3 years, uh, many GCSE, A level, and university students had probably some of the worst 3 years of their lives, and a lot of them uh, not achieving uh, some of the results that they would have hoped. And my message to them is GCSE is not be all and end all, nor is A level. There's always going to be path and opportunities. Just be your natural self and get prepared and be prepared to learn and take part. And there will be other paths that will open up. A very typical South Asian parental mentality is you have to study and you need to be doctors and lawyers and solicitors. Well, actually, there's more to be done and achieved beyond academics. So, and not everybody is blessed to, and not everybody flourishes through the educational system. There are hundreds and thousands and millions who flourish outside of the educational system, the informal methods of learning. So don't think just because you haven't had the best GCSE grade or A level grade, that's it. Life is done. No, it's just a start, and you learn things, new skills, gain new qualifications, and there will be opportunities knocking on your way. Just get prepared and be prepared to learn, get stuck in, and to develop as you grow.
Yeah. And it seems to me, just hearing your answer. And firstly, thank you so much for sharing, about your father. It happened at a quite young age, and I can't imagine how difficult it would be. So, of course, that was one of your pivotal moments in your life. So talking about the GCSEs and exam failures, I think people can get in that mindset of right, failed exams. That's it. That's over. Opportunities gone. And I think I was a bit similar to that mindset. I was thinking, right, opportunities are shut. But would you say it's a lot about mindset, having that growth mindset that there is opportunities out there. You need to be open to them and seek them out because they are out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think the reason I mentioned new communities coming here. So I had 2 years to prepare for GCSE, having arrived here at the age of coming 13 without a single word in English. So you need to pick up the language, and by the time I've managed to pick up the language, GCSE exam, you need to submit GCSE exam. So um, uh, 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 so I was very proud of the results that I got, but of course, apparently it wasn't good enough. Some of the grades that you need to get into your uni, your this, your that. So, but I never doubted myself, and I was prepared to continuously learn So it probably took me another attempt at GCSE then. So I might have lost a couple of years in your natural GCSE age, A-level age, then your college or uni. But those couple of years that it took me extra, I think I gained invaluable life lessons from those, and perhaps it shaped who I would turn out to be. So never believe in yourself, never question or doubt your ability, because every one of us have those ability. We just need to find the thing that interests you and I. Not everybody will be a politician. Not everybody will be a doctor or a teacher. There's something in us all, and we just need to discover that individual, and you will naturally prosper and achieve your aim ultimately.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just about like raising people's aspirations, and
Yeah.
you said having that belief, that can be the difference. That could be the X factor. So because sometimes it's not in the moment, especially for young people, it's not about, say, having that ability and skill set that can be developed later. But that difference could be that belief in themselves, or somebody has that belief and shows them the way as well. At least that certainly has been the case for myself as well. And hopefully this podcast shows people that are listening or perhaps are struggling at the moment with confidence and thinking they're not good enough and having a bit of imposter syndrome. I still get it. I think everyone gets it.
Absolutely.
At whatever stage, you probably still get it
Oh, yeah.
in some of the stuff you're doing. For sure, as Lord Mayor, you probably had a bit of imposter syndrome, but it was well known. So hopefully people find that spark in themselves. Once that starts, I believe at least you're gonna go on. That's your start to go and achieve bit by bit, step by step. Sometimes you're gonna take leaps and bounds, and like you have here. So thank you so much.
No, it's a pleasure.
It's been an absolute honor having you on, and bit of a coup getting you on as my first guest. Hopefully, in a cheeky way, it's going to attract other people to come on to share more amazing stories like yourself. So thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. I'll look forward to the next podcast at some point.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.